Okay, Chelsea versus Burnley. In today's video, we're just going to be previewing the game. It is very nice to be back after the international break. Cannot wait to get stuck into the Premier League. And then we've got a huge week for Chelsea, especially with Barcelona and Arsenal coming up as the next games after Burnley. But let's start by previewing this game today. We're going to try and make it a little bit of a shorter preview. So let me know how long you actually like these previews to be. More detail, less detail, sort of specific to one or two things, a little bit more general. Let me know what you guys like. Please do support the channel by leaving a like, comment, all that good stuff, because I am pushing for 10K. We've only got about a month. Well, I would like to hit 10K by the end of the year. That was always the aim at the start of this year. However, that might not be doable now, but I want to get as close to it as possible and really just try our best. So a few stats just to start with on Burnley. They have the second lowest PPDA in the league, 14.8. So that's the passes per defensive action. That basically shows that they have one of the least intense presses in the league. They also have the deepest start position for their press. So that is interesting to how deep they sit, especially because we're going to be talking about how they set up in terms of defensively. Because as you can sort of see here, we've got a line of 6 here. And if you'd have seen from the thumbnail, they dropped, especially against Arsenal, they dropped Lesia Gachukwu, who Chelsea fans will be familiar with. He was basically playing as a right mid in this game and protecting this sort of space here. Now, when he was dropping off all the way to cover the width, and then they were allowing Hartman on the inside, or Walker, to essentially watch Declan Rice, or if Calafiori was inside, it was affording those players to keep an eye because, as you can see, Calafiori's here on the inside channel. So they were trying to overload that backline, and it was forcing Burnley back. But what I noticed a lot about Burnley, because I rewatched the Arsenal and the City games, because that is both games where they've dropped into a 5-4-1, something that you can expect to see tomorrow, similar with us, something we have struggled with against 5-4-1 oppositions, and how they can sort of look to stunt us. How Arsenal sort of built up in this game, they were very willing to clip that ball over this line. And something I noticed about Burnley in these two games, more so in the Arsenal game than even the City game, is they want to keep these lines compact here. And we speak about this quite a lot because this season, where some defenses are dropping off a bit quicker and this sort of front press is being initiated with the midfielders, what can sometimes happen is the space actually ends up between those two lines. But instead, and it's something we spoke about in a mid-block video we did on the channel a few weeks ago, I think it was now, is teams, especially like Sunderland, Palace, really good at this. Burnley are another team that I think they want to prioritise keeping this space closed and therefore allowing teams to look to clip that ball over the top in behind into this space here. So I think that's really important to sort of speak about because the introduction of the lap coming back could be key to allowing Chelsea to have that threat on the pitch in a similar way that they did with Gyökeres in this game and allow Chelsea to put pressure on in that sense. Now, if we move on one here, this is a bit more of the sort of 5-4-1. It's a little bit off screen here, but you can see, again, look at the sort of height of the line. And this is where they're about to release a ball over the top because that chance is there. They're trying to keep those lines closed. Now, yes, there is options between the lines here. As you can see, Timber's inside, Gyökeres dropping off a little bit. And it's actually going to be Calafiori who's making that darting running behind. Eze's dropping off deeper to sort of draw this midfield line out a little bit as well. So these movements are going to be key against this 5-4-1 of Burnley. And I do think that being able to penetrate over the block to not only force them to defend backwards, but it will also force set pieces as something they often, again, when these players are defending backwards, they will then resort to getting it out. And this can resort to quite a few set pieces. Pretty sure Arsenal's first goal came from a pass like this, going over the top and it forcing a set piece, and then they score from that corner. So this is something Chelsea will want to do as well, because if you look at Burnley's set piece record, defending set pieces, I've lost it now, but their set piece defensive record is worse than ours. So we spoke a few weeks ago that we had the worst in the league with 6.1 XG conceded, and that was 44.14 of the XG that we concede as a whole, just from set pieces. Burnley, they've conceded 6.63 from set pieces XG, the only team that have conceded more XG from set pieces than us defensively. So this is something that if you can force these moments and get set pieces, that could give you that breakthrough. So I do think that these sort of moments of looking to play over the block is important. Now, again, we speak about low blocks. When they do drop off into this low block, which they did a little bit more against City, as I said, against Arsenal, I think they were trying to hold that mid block a tiny bit longer to prolong that sort of state and almost force Arsenal to go in behind, which didn't work too well for them. Didn't work too well for Burnley, that is. Here, as you can see, where a lot of players are drawn to the ball, with Doku especially, what it actually left was I don't know what's happened there, so apologies for that, but it left a 3v2, sorry, at that back post. And this is something throughout the game, trying to get those back post sort of clips in, and look how many Burnley players are back in their own box. And what this sort of comes to in the end is Haaland keeps it alive, and then it drops for one of these other players in the box because the gravity that Haaland's taken away in the box, and a lot of the players attracted to the ball ends up dropping into space, and these players from outside the box can actually arrive inside the box. So that's very important. Again, in this game, it is going to have to come down to that volume, that high volume of shots, that high volume of crosses, that little bit more willingness to sort of break that in behind, like I say, with that sort of line of 5, and if they're going to try and sit in more of a mid-block. It is going to be important that Delap is making those runs and then allowing João Pedro to almost do what Eze was doing in that number 10 and dropping wherever he sort of wants and being that freedom player in this game. Now, I've got a lineup on screen. I'm going to take Neto out and put Esteval in. This is what I would like to see. Especially because, and people won't like this, but against Arsenal, I want Neto and Garnacho to play together. So I'd actually bring Esteval off the bench in the Arsenal game. But in this game especially, where you know there's going to be a lot of sort of double ups on the wings, a lot of chances to create those moments of chaos through those wing sort of pairings, but also making those runs in behind and also coming inside to connect between the lines. I think that's something Esteval offers a lot of. So if I was to pick my team, I think it could look something like this. Now, Badiashile is back. Whether he starts or not, because I think it would be harsh because these two have really been good in the last few games. I would be tempted to keep that pair together and maybe bring Badiashile in against Barca. But again, that's a tough game to bring him straight back in from injury. He did it well when he came back from injury last time, but of course you want to protect him. There's lots of different question marks around this. Now, how I think we'll set up against this and how we'll move on the ball is I think we'll actually go really aggressive from the start. I think we're going to almost see that 2-2-5-1 very, very quickly. How I'll explain it is I think Cucurella is going to push up between these lines here, and I think Fernandes actually, instead of being on that left side, which we spoke about last week, the Cucurella, Garnacho, Fernandes left-sided dynamic, I think usually what we see is Fernandes go to this right-hand side so that when we play this sort of diamond midfield with Caicedo at the base, João Pedro at the tip, and then you've got Cucurella and Fernandes in the half spaces either side. Fernandes is the sort of guy who can facilitate that by playing on either side. So I think Fernandes will go up into this area here, especially so that Reece can play as well. And again, that's important because I think Gusto is going to be another key piece against both Barcelona and Arsenal for the pressing system. So I do think that it will be James at right back in this game. And what that basically gives you in this 2-2-5-1 is Caicedo is obviously going to be that guy at the base, and you've got your two sort of central defenders here. What you're going to have is that is your build-up base sort of box. That's your build-up box. Whether that means James drops out to here at times so that it almost looks like a 3-1, a little bit more of a diamond, or if James pushes up, as I said, to sort of form that almost 2-2 in that base, then that is something we'll see from them. Then it comes to a little bit more about in between the lines. You've got the wingers who can sort of pin these players outside, and then that's when it comes to these players. Can they sort of make those supporting runs underlaps? Can they connect to help sort of progress play? Can they even drop into here to sort of offer bounce passes inside or give the progression to the wingers so that they can sort of get those 1v1 opportunities? These half-space players are very important. And then, of course, comes the connection between Liam Delap and João Pedro, as we just spoke about. Can Delap stretch this defensive line a little bit if they're going to try and sit and force Chelsea over? And then can João Pedro, can he drop into these places to get the ball and try and draw this line forward so that someone like Fernandes can receive between the lines, or even Delap, who can then bounce pass it into someone like Fernandes, and you can look to progress to the wings that way, which is another reason why I'd like to see Esteval in here, because something he does really well is if it is Fernandes sort of dropping in to get the ball in this way, Esteval tries to meet it with a little run inside and tries to take it as he arrives here. And then he can attack the back line with momentum, something that Esteval does really, really well. So I think that Esteval, especially in this game, would be really, really key to sort of exploit those positions between the lines, as we sort of spoke about here. But also, if you're going to force them back, it is going to come down to that volume. So Garnacho is going to be important for that. Esteval, he creates his own shots. You need those players that are going to create a shot for themselves and take it. Esteval, more of a creator of a shot for himself. Garnacho needs a little bit more sort of going for him in terms of feeding, but he is high volume and he will look to sort of be direct with his actions, whether that's cutbacks across the box, and then that can come to that sort of back post overloads that we spoke about earlier in the video. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about in terms of this video. Maybe not as an in-depth one, because when you think about this game, it is a lot of things that we've already seen this season, a lot of shapes that we've already spoke about. And I think this one will come down to sort of the playing personnel within the team and how Chelsea are going to look to break down this stubborn sort of block of Burnley and the intentions that are within it. So I can't wait to see what Burnley look to do, how Chelsea maybe look to stunt them and almost pull the block apart with their movements, whether it's, like I say, the hard space players dropping in, Esteval sort of linking inside, whether it's this sort of aggressive 2-2 base so that they can really pin Burnley into their own half and get so much volume like we did against Wolves almost that it eventually comes. It's going to be really interesting to see. So let me know your thoughts ahead of this game. What lineup do you want to see? Any questions, I'll try to get to them before the game. Kickoff is, of course, 12:30 tomorrow, so it's going to be an awkward one. Let's just please get through this, get a result, come out the blocks quickly, and then focus on Barcelona and Arsenal. Two huge games where we'll have so much content on the channel to cover both of those things. So please support the channel, leave a like, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the review, which will be on Monday for the Burnley game.